hour now, and it's a good time to kick off. It's because it's webinar hour somewhere around the world, and it's right now is webinar hour. So a huge welcome to everybody who is joining us today for this SAMPS webinar on the subject of CRM. My name is Stephen Archer. I am one of the if you like, one of the founders actually of SAMPS. I've been involved in SAMPS since it kicked off 7 or 8 years ago now. I'm also a board member, and I'll be your host as well today. But I'd also like to make a mention to Joanne Dimitriopoulos, who is in the West Coast, and she's going to be handling the polling, and she's helped set the event up today. And to Joan Boyce, who will be moderating and curating, if you will, any questions that come in from you today on the Zoom chat, because this webinar is for you, and we want to hear your commentary, your questions, and we want to serve you as an audience as best we can. So we will take questions during the webinar to give to our panel, but I also have some questions, as you may imagine, to kick off with them, and there will be some polling to start with as well. But just to kick off, I'd like to give you a little bit of more background on SAMPS. In fact, it was established in 2012 as a not-for-profit organization, and it's focused on enhancing and supporting the skill sets for anyone who's in the commercial role, commercial professionals in the life science industry. And it exists to empower and connect, as well as educate people in the industry and also in life science and applied research fields. So the organization has really grown because of the contribution and the participation and the mutual support that people have given to each other. And it's been a very, very dynamic and also a very warm and supportive organization to people. And anyone who's been to an event has found it extremely helpful to them. So we actually, of course, arrange a number of events. But this year, as you understand, no live events in either North America or in Europe. So next year, we hope, because they tend to be in the fall, we can have a return to live events. But every cloud has a silver lining, and it's enabled us to deliver more webinars, and it's also we have more networking events. And to that point, I also want to give a little quick plug and trailer to another coming up on December 17th next week, which will be hosted by Dale Suzuki, and he will be talking about COVID-19 vaccine, the vaccine story, if you will. And I know he's just written a book on this, and having heard Dale talking about it, that is sure to be a very dynamic event. It's also been generously sponsored by BioCompare. So without further ado, I would like to introduce you to the panel today. And you can see on the screen you're both live, and you've got fixed pictures. You have a choice of whether you would, which one you'd like to take. So I go for the live one. You're way better live. So first of all, ladies first. Jasmine Greer-Gray. She's been running marketing at Gyrus Protein Technologies since 2016. Previously, she was VP of marketing at Biodesics, which is a diagnostics company, and she has extensive experience though in life science industry, and she has previously driven corporate marketing and demand generation as the VP of global marketing at Affymetrix, and before that Dionix, both of which are now of course part of Thermo Fisher. And these days most things are part of Thermo Fisher or Dionix, Danaher, I guess, and those two had to go that direction. So, but Jasmine has had successful and successive levels of responsibility in life sciences division in GE before that, and amateur pharmacy at biotech. So Jasmine is fair to say is one of the most accomplished and experienced marketing professionals, certainly that I know of in life sciences. So moving to Rick Carberry. Rick, actually, I've not known for very long, but let me say, having said that, Rick's one of those guys that I just feel like I've known him a long time, and Rick is a great guy. Let me tell you that. And I think he actually wrote for himself, he's a veteran. Don't use the word veteran, Rick. You're just really well experienced. But let's put it in true perspective. 40 years of sales and marketing experiences in HPLC, LCMS, in that tools business. Also got a successful record in driving commercialization, growing businesses both in large analytical instrument companies as well as startup ventures with new technologies. His career has been in sales and in marketing and leadership of both, and it's traversed 10 years in Waters, 15 years at Applied Biosystems, Sykes, 5 years Agilent, and 10 years at Thermo Fisher Scientific. So I think it's fair to say, actually, no, Rick, you are a veteran, you're right. But a young looking and sounding one all the same. So we're very pleased to have you here today, Rick. And lastly, Mike Pettigrew, a spring chicken at only 35 years, apparently, experience in the life sciences industry, but you've held commercial leadership roles in, again, in the large multinationals, most recently in Thermo Fisher, before that GE Healthcare, but you've got huge experience in sales and in marketing, technical support, customer support management, and you've been an integral part of the launch and commercialization of many, many products and in many markets in the life science marketplace. And I can't think of anybody that I would rather have on my team as a sales leader other than Mike Pettigrew. So welcome to you all. Thank you for joining us today. And I really hope that the audience gives you some testing questions, because you deserve it, and I know that you can help the audience. That's more to the point. So let's kick off the webinar now. But actually, before we get to questions for the panel, we're going to start with a poll, and this will appear on screen any second now, I think. Here we go. Thank you, Joanne. So you can read the question, and you've got about 30 seconds to hit the answers on that. So I'll leave you to go for that now. Thank you. So I think when the time's up, the poll panel will drop off, and we'll look at the result.
Can they do mail-in ballots, Stephen?
Oh boy, yes, but you need an attorney.
Okay.
Okay. So unless you have an attorney with you, Rick, it's not going to happen.
I was just trying to fill the dead space with a little commentary. So,
okay, well done. Thanks for that. Thanks for that. Okay, great. Yeah. So it looks like the dominant answer is number 3 at 25 to 50%. It's a close run. It's a close run thing, mind you. Having said that, I guess one might say it's a surprise that as many as 9% not using CRM. Having said that, smaller organizations, may not justify setting that up. Even so, it's an interesting picture we have here that CRM clearly has a way to go to be fully fully implemented, if you like, and used to its full capability. And that's what today is really about. And it's the parallel we tend to use here is in this discussion is, we have things like Excel, things got Word, we've got PowerPoint. Do we use its full capability? Even our iPhones, do we use the full capability? And the answer is, well, maybe not. And do we really need to use that full capability at all times? And I think the answer is therefore that turns me over the question to the panel here to answer that question. So if you think about adopting CRM, what's the advice that you would give the audience with regards to what it can and can't accomplish? And I think that's the thing. It's not about just using the full capability. What should we really be looking to accomplish with CRM? And what do you feel the most important things to consider when thinking about adopting a CRM system? So let me start that question off with Rick.
Okay, thank you, Stephen. I think I'm going to parrot something that Jasmine said in our rehearsals, and I think the ideal state is you want to serve customers and you want to serve the business. And Jasmine said there are 4 quadrants. There's the sales and marketing piece, and then there's the support and service piece. I think from my perspective, I think it's difficult to implement that all together, even though that is the ideal state. The sales and marketing piece kind of run together, and the support and service piece kind of run together. So, my advice would be to, maybe start with the sales and marketing piece and get that done. Design the system for the salespeople, because complexity is inversely proportional to adoption. Salespeople are going to be filling this out, so you want to make it easy and efficient for them. Push some of the reports and tools to them so they see value. You can also beat the salespeople with a carrot. We used to have an adage a few jobs ago that if it's not in the CRM, it doesn't exist and you don't get paid. So those are some of the top of mind things from my side.
Yeah, that's really good. So it sounds like you've actually come from a number of places, Rick, where CRM is actually seen as mission critical. If you're thinking about those kind of principles, then it's you're thinking about it being fully embracing. I think that's really what I'm hearing you say. Yes, so Mike, how would you speak to that?
Yeah, just to add on to what Rick said, I think first step is you have to kind of decide what you want to use the CRM for. I happen to be just now, we're kind of executing on one now, and we've chosen kind of more of a customer experience model where you're going to gather in data and input from everywhere, all across the organization, and make sure there's kind of a single point for whoever's going to interface with that customer is going to have that experience. But as Rick suggested, there's a lot of ways to use it. I mean, things that just come to mind, data archival is a big one, right? You want to understand what your customers are doing. You want to be able to use that from a sales and marketing perspective, and use it over time as territories shift and people move in and out of jobs. The demographic piece, that's always interesting. And I think just to add to what Rick said, you got to be really careful with this piece. If you slice it too thin, there's really no value to get out of the data, and it can cause issues between sales and marketing and other. Then there's the operations piece, whether it's sales, marketing, support. What do territories look like? What's quote to cash look like? All those types of things that you can run from or gather data out of our CRM. Another important one is kind of sales, marketing, support alignment. I'm sure nobody else on the call has ever had misalignment between sales and marketing, but it's been known to happen. And this is a tool where you can really use data to you agree upon upfront what sales, marketing, and support are responsible for, and then you can at regular intervals look at that data and make sure that there's alignment, and it can cause you to focus on solutions rather than who didn't do what.
Yeah. And to that point, you're joking aside, Mike. From my experience, you often see sales and marketing, understandably, see CRM through a very different lens, and that's part of the confusion and divide, if you like, that can happen there. So Jasmine, I just wonder how you've seen and indeed successfully implemented CRM in a way that brings sales and marketing more closely together.
Yeah, so I think the consideration here is around, yes, thinking big, yes, looking at what you want to achieve in the short term and in the long term, but start small. Otherwise, this is going to get overwhelming really, really quickly, whether you're a big company or a small company, and then move quickly. And the move quickly is about having internal processes, having alignment among all the 4 quadrants, as Rick had said, and ensuring that the goal here is the customer, whether it's your existing customer or your prospective customer, and how to build that relationship part, the R in CRM.
So to that point, I want to go back to you and Mike. The reason I'm going back to you, Mike, is because you're in the process of setting up a CRM system from scratch for essentially any organization or an organization in a new market, right? So you got a clean sheet of paper. So everything that was done wrong in the past won't happen, and it's going to be perfect from now on,
Of
right?
course, yeah.
Yeah, of course it is. So, but you actually use the word customer experience, or you use the word experience at least in the context of the system you're setting up. And Jasmine just said the whole piece about getting the relationship focus correct, but you actually are talking about experience, and the word experience is increasingly coming up. I'm hearing it more and more in the context of CRM, because it's not just about relationship, it's about how the customers experience the relationship. In other words, not relationship, it's not simply relationship, it's the nature of how they end up feeling about their suppliers. And is that where you're coming from, Mike and Jasmine and Rick? Is that where you also been trying to go?
I'll jump back in. I mean, if a customer calls somebody in your company at one of the functions, sales, marketing, service support, I think the holy grail is, in order to make that customer experience really feel positive and good and connected, if when the phone rings, it's connected to the record because you've wired it like that, and whoever receives the call can look at the customer, their nickname, a little bit of their history. Oh, we appreciate that $1 million order you just placed. How can I help you today? It makes them feel like we know them, and it connects all the functions and makes that information accessible to everybody. So I think that's the customer experience part we're all after.
Right. And is that how you see it as well, Jasmine?
Yeah, so I look at it from two really big words: personalization and trust. It's personalizing that experience, as you're saying, Rick, that I know you recently had an instrument installed, or I realize you recently had an issue in technical support. Just want to confirm that that was resolved to your satisfaction. Having that, building on that experience, but personalizing that experience, whether somebody is interacting with you because they reached into you, or whether somebody in marketing, for example, is sending out a newsletter, and that I've personalized that newsletter so the content I'm sending them relates to what segment of the market they're in, or what pain points they have. And that sort of links to the trust, and links to not overusing the data that they've been so gracious to entrust us with.
Right. So this then leads us, if you like, to what some may see as a thorny question, but not today. It's not a thorny question. And the question, therefore, is who should own CRM?
Yeah, I mean, to me, this is, not really a critical component about who owns a CRM. For the most part, what I'm used to, there's kind of a sales operations role, or there's an operations role where this normally resides. The more critical piece of, instead of who owns it, is what you agree upon it's there for. And when you get down to the nuts and bolts, what you agree on, who's going to use it for what, right? Is it that customer experience model? Is it something different? But just to answer the question, typically, from my experience, it's been, an operations piece that's actually owned it. And people like us, more or less, that are on the commercial side have been users of it.
Okay, yeah. So just a slight aside to this, we're now sort of laying out some pretty critical principles then to, what CRM should be doing for you, if you like, as an organization. Do any of you have any strong feelings about whether any particular platforms should be implemented, and which platforms are maybe outmoded now and not actually not the best for the job? I mean, I don't want to go into sort of a massive sort of customer review of CRM platforms, but I'm interested to know whether you think it's particularly critical, the platform, compared to the criticality of actually defining its value within an organization.
I can kick it off. I don't know that any one platform is better than another. Yeah, there are some that are more popular, but I think what's more important is to consider your architecture, to consider how the CRM talks to your marketing automation, how your CRM talks to your ERP, how your CRM talks to where tech support and service spends their time if it isn't in the CRM proper. That's, I think, more the way I've seen a successful CRM setup rather than what the name of the CRM is.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Any other comments on that one, Rick?
Yeah, from my perspective, I've gone over the 40 years from Excel spreadsheets that Jim Waters used to send me when I was an individual sales rep. You know, that was right around the time when Excel was first introduced by Microsoft. So that's where I started. Then there was ACT came out, and that was more of a purpose-built tool. And that was much, much better, easier to deal with. But the last decade or so, it's been Salesforce.com. And powerful, flexible, will connect here, there, and everywhere. And therein lies the trap. If you try to bite off more than you could really chew, you can go round and round in circles between all the functions fighting about this stuff. I'll give you one quick example. Early in the implementation of Salesforce.com at my previous place of employment in Waltham, Massachusetts, sales and marketing was fighting about the pick list. You know, how are you going to segment customers and applications? The sales team, Mike and I, you know, we had a very short list of several different categories. So a sales rep could click, select, and move on efficiently. Marketing wanted a pick list of, I don't know, 40 or 50 different markets and sub-markets and applications. So 6 months into the implementation, we go to pull a report to see where our customers are coming from. 40% of them were listed as other. I had no idea. That's because it was too difficult for sales reps to navigate this huge pick list. And so from an ownership standpoint, you know, they don't call it MarketForce.com, they call it Salesforce.com. So I think sales should have had they should have had the votes and consider the opinions of the marketing team. But I don't think to this day that ever really got fixed.
Right. Jasmine is not gnashing her teeth at all to that comment. I'm just saying.
Yeah, you know, marketing segmentation and target audience, speaking to the target audience and personalizing that message to the target audience is super, super important. But I do agree with you, Rick, and I think Mike said this as well. If you start splitting hairs, you're going to get down to an impossible number of selections. And worse, even from salespeople not knowing which to pick, your own customers are not going to know which segment they belong in because you've sliced it so finely. So I think you're right. You need to make it fit for purpose.
Yeah, and in fact, one of the questions that's come in while we've been speaking is actually, you know, whether the sales and marketing process in an organization should actually drive CRM, or the CRM features, if you like, should drive the processes. And of course, you know, that is, therein lies a trap, I guess, that some organizations do fall into, right? I mean, you've seen both, I imagine.
Yeah, I mean, I'll jump in on that one, Stephen. I mean, I think it really goes back to originally, what do you want to, you know, get out of it? Because, you know, if you want kind of this customer experience piece, the thing you have to do is really work that up front and understand, you know, get input from all the different parts of the organization and make sure everybody's on board, et cetera. You know, if it's going to be kind of more of a sales and marketing tool, you know, that'll drive a different way you work. And then you have to make sure that sales and marketing is aligned, and it may drive your choice of CRM as well. But, you know, if you start from, you know, before you go to execute this, or if you're in the middle of it and you decide what you want to do with it, that will drive a lot of what you're going to end up with.
Right. Okay, so I'd like to now turn to the second polling question now. So Joanne's going to bring it up on the screen. And it's a natural segue into the next question, and certainly from what we've already spoken about now. And the question is the use of a CRM system mandatory within your sales organization? Is it yes or no, or not at this time? Is it mandatory? Okay, right. So predominantly it is mandatory. I guess we should have also asked in that a secondary question on that one. Is it mandatory to be used by marketing as well? Because that would have that would have really really added a bit more color to that one. But okay, so that's interesting. But the question is, okay, so it's mandatory in most organizations. However, what tips do you can you offer to actually encourage adoption? And it's all very well being mandatory, but as Rick said, if it's way too complex, for example, you're going to have issues here, or the thing to be poorly designed, I guess. So what are the guidance points you would offer to the audience as to how to make that adoption far easier and more likely to be actually or not required but to be mandatory? Rick, I know you've got go, Mike. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry, Rick. I was just going to jump in and say, sure. A couple things. If you're going to spend the money on it, it should be mandatory. There's no reason to spend money on this and then not use it, right? So that's one thing. The easiest way to get better adoption is to ensure that there's an outcome for everybody in it, right? So the marketing, if Jasmine's running the marketing group, she's getting out of it what she needs. She understands better what her leads are doing, after they leave her team. And for the sales piece, you have to get an outcome out of that too, which is to see, hey, I'm getting better quality leads. I'm getting more targeted leads. I'm able to, move forward in the process a lot quicker. But the last thing I'll say is, as a sales or marketing manager, you have to manage it. You have to be involved, and you have to say, you know what, guys, we didn't buy this to sit on the sidelines. And so there's got to be management of it through your team as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Rick, I know you've got some strong views on this one.
I've got strong views on everything, unfortunately.
That's true.
Mike knows all too well. But no, I think an outcome for everyone is the right approach here. If you're talking about a sales team and sales managers, if you can get the tool to the point where the tool will automatically push analytics and reports to the sales managers, so they can look at their reps and say, oh, we had a one metric where we were looking at freshness. How often were the opportunities and things in the CRM being touched by the salespeople? And you send that to the sales managers, and it gives them a view of where their adoption is in their organization. But you got to create outcomes for everybody. And the other thing that I had said earlier is you got to keep it simple. In one of the last engagements, we actually wrote a tool for sales forecasting, streamlining. So the environment in terms of updates were all going to be done on a horizontal basis. So you could quickly go across customer, market, dollars, product, comments, and do that very quickly. Whereas the CRM tool itself was a very vertical, up and down the x-axis sort of mentality. And it took a lot longer to do it that way. So you got to make it easy. There's got to be value for everybody in the game, and there can be push reports to the marketing teams as well in terms of the percent of leads that come from campaigns and which campaigns and so forth.
And so, I just want to quickly add to that. I think it's also leading by example. If the sales reps, if the marketing managers and product managers see their managers using the CRM, see their managers get reports and get information and then use the information for other purposes, there is a greater likelihood of adoption as well.
Right. So what about managing the integrity of data? What's the best way to maintain that? Because clearly if data does lack integrity, then sooner or later, maybe sooner, it's going to be noticed or felt by sales and marketing people, and obviously that can erode the the likelihood of usage and further adoption, if you like. So, what are the best practices do you think for establishing and maintaining data integrity?
I think that data cleansing needs to become part of your routine of your process. Looking for duplicates, looking for process improvements. I mean, again, coming back to something I said earlier around starting small, you don't have to eat the apple in one bite. Start using it and then analyze after a period of time to see where there's opportunity for data cleansing, where maybe some folks are not following the process in the needed way, and so that's driving some data integrity issues.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the other thing that I've had some success with is doing what I call it an attack day. You can use attack days for lots of different things. Let's call all the prospects we have for this one, this one product, this one service. But we used to do attack days as well to do cleanups. Let's make sure all the quote unquote committed, all the commits in the CRM tool, that we've touched each of them. And you set up that Tuesday, and everybody spends the whole day, the whole field organization, doing an attack day. So you get a focus on cleansing and updating, and that seems to help. And you see everybody doing it, and everybody's got to go for the ride on those.
Right. I'm sorry, Steve, just to add to that, I mean, I think, I completely agree with what Rick and Jasmine are saying. And, kind of the last part of that I would add is you also have to kind of be aware and, kind of have enough, in you to say, some of the programs that I have maybe been advocating for aren't working, and you need to either change them or abandon them before the CRM becomes what Rick said before, right? You've just got this massive pick list. So I think as if you're working in or leading a sales or marketing team, sometimes you have to say, what, this isn't working the way I expected or it was designed, and you need to be able to say, let's move on from it, and get something of more value out of it.
So I've got a question coming in from the audience. I think this one's certainly right for you, Mike, because you're setting the system up, and it's also right for you, Jasmine, for reasons that'll be obvious. And the question is that how do you advise companies to obtain consent and permissions from customers as to being able to use their contact data? Now, for you, obviously, in marketing, that's a critical piece because your contact's often somewhat more remote, if you like, than the sales contact. For you, Mike, it's interesting because you're kind of starting from scratch. So you could have a fantastic database, and everyone says, nope, don't talk to you.
Well, we're kind of in an interesting position too, because this is a diagnostic company, and we're regulated to a large degree about what we can do, particularly with patient data. But Jasmine will probably know more about opt-in lists and different things like that. But as a sales leader or a marketing leader, there's nothing wrong with using data internally to understand the sales operations piece, and we all have to do what we need to do, forecasting and the like. But you should take care to realize it is information that you wouldn't want to be used in ways that it shouldn't be. So I'm not 100% sure how to answer that one, outside of make sure you're following your local regulations, rules for opt-ins and things like that, and just don't use data in a haphazard way. I think Jasmine may have a better answer than that.
No, fundamentally, it comes down to exactly that. We made a decision at Gyros Protein Technologies globally to follow GDPR rules. So we do require opt-in. We partner with other channels who also require opt-ins, so that we sort of ensure that continuity of consent, if you will, when we're using other lists or when promotions are going out for various events. Yes, it's something you need to continue to stay vigilant on. And I think that GDPR, while today is specific for Europe, I have no doubt that it's going to become a global policy in the next short while.
So without asking you to give away your secret sauce, Jasmine, or anyone else on the online here. So to me, the intriguing point here is fine. We need to work at getting permissions, but when you bear in mind low click-through rates, low open rates, if you like, and then you're asking people to give permission as well. And what can you do to encourage people once you've actually got them to the point where they've actually seen it to actually action it? Because most people's action is just delete or ignore.
I'll start with that one. I think, and again, I'll refer back to something Jasmine said earlier about personalization. You got to make the content and the things you send people relevant. So if you're a food chemist, struggling to look at pesticides and oranges and tomatoes, you don't want to send them something about looking at spike proteins and COVID viruses. Right. You can't spray and pray. It has to be relevant. It has to be useful, of value, and relevant. And the better job you can do with that, the more people are going to stay in and not opt out. But that speaks to how you do content marketing and how you set up communities of customers and prospects that you're going to send pre-programmed information to that's relevant. Keep it relevant and make sure you're always adding value and don't spray and pray.
Yeah. So I got a really interesting question for you now, and actually one that's really difficult. So I'll give it to Mike first, therefore. So and it's actually I think it comes off the back of a question I was going to ask you anyway, and that is that how do you use CRM in ways that are actionable and help drive business decisions? In other words, CRM can drive decisions, or CRM can be a repository that is a result of decisions, if you like. And the second part of that question, which has come from the audience, is there a best practice for converting CRM from being a cost to a revenue generator? We look at the tool, but can we actually look at it and say, what's the precise ROI we can get actually on the use of that data? So, Mike, how do you respond to that?
In terms of actionable results and what you can do with it, I think of two things. One is at kind of a more macro level where you start to look at CRM and say, hey, let me see how territories are developing or markets are developing, and you say, hey, I may need to split a territory here or add a territory here, or we may need to spend more money in the pesticide example that Rick just went. That's one way to take data and make it actionable. Another way is kind of on the ground. Rick and I just came from a company that sold a lot of technology across a lot of markets. And if you look at kind of COVID right now, there are markets that are more active than others. And if you use the example that Rick used of, hey, whether it's a food chemist or if it's somebody looking at water purity in a local level, you can use your CRM to target those more and maybe, not stay away from your good customers in academia where they're not as active now, but make sure you're taking your spend and applying it to where you're going to have more, of a return on that investment.
Yeah, right.
And from a marketing perspective, I think that it can be helpful from sort of the sales and marketing relationship, if you will. And what I'm referring to is attribution models, where there's an agreement ahead of time between the sales and marketing leaders on what becomes a marketing qualified and sales qualified lead. What's sort of the threshold of steps and actions that a visitor to your website, for example, or responses to different marketing campaigns are made. So that's one aspect of decision making that the CRM can help with. The other is around marketing learning about the market's insights. So what pieces of content are more popular than others? To Rick's point about content being resonating and the importance of that to increase the customer experience and customer relationship, the CRM can capture that sort of data for a marketer to analyze and help take the messaging to that next level.
Right.
Yeah, Stephen, I'll give you a couple examples.
Sure.
One is a metric like funnel health. Funnel health, how many prospects or how many dollars do you have in a moving window divided into the amount of quota, the amount of business you're supposed to do in that time period. That's a really fundamental metric in terms of sales. And if in every business, every product is going to have a different level in terms of what you need. Sometimes you need twice the dollars or the units. Sometimes you need 5 times. Sometimes you need 10 times. But once you nail those sort of metrics for the business you're in, when you fall outside of that window, you build a pretty compelling case. I need some more demand generation. I need some more leads, or we got to go somewhere else to cover this business. So that can be used to drive behavior in the other functions. Or even something like selling demo refurb equipment, which in the analytical instrument business, can grow to 20-25% of the top line. If you're tracking in your CRM how many of those prospects you have, and yet the factory is asleep at the wheel and not looking for demo refurb gear or not refurbishing it, you could be booking orders for things and then not deliver revenue because you got no inventory and demo refurb stuff. So there's lots of examples like that where you can feed back to marketing, feedback to the factory about things that are actionable that are going to drive business and create revenue.
Right. Yeah. Thanks for that, Rick. So I want to move now towards, how we view CRM in the context of challenges this year. So we'll start that off with the third and last polling question, which is showing up on the screen now. And the question is going to be, have you changed the way that your CRM is used this year? So I think it's going to come up on the screen like now. There we go. Have you changed the way you use your CRM this year? Okay, so there has been change for nearly half the group. There's been some level of change, and 10% have made a big change. So it'd be interesting to see exactly what people have actually done there. To be honest, so the question I have for you then, is in an environment where customer contact is significantly reduced. And therefore, that poses something of a threat to the relationship, if you like, and it certainly changes the nature of the experience that customers have. So how do you think that CRM can and should be adapted to compensate for that lack of customer contact, which is not just this year, and let's face it, it's going to go into somewhere into 2021. Mike?
Yeah, no, I think it's a lot of what we've been talking about, Stephen. I think Rick gave some good examples and Jasmine did already, but I think the real issue is, twofold is, are there changes that your internal organization have had to make to deal with this? And that's more than just having Zoom meetings instead of face-to-face meetings. Did you have to shift around territories or target markets or whatever it may be? And your CRM is obviously a great tool at using that. And then more important externally is, how do you look at your customer base and who's doing what now, right? So you have to make sure that you're still keeping contact with your key customers through this time and understanding what they're going through and how you can help them. And the second thing is you have to understand where you can still bring in revenue and hit the goals you have, whether you're in sales and marketing. And I can't think of a better place in the CRM to help segment those pieces and understand where you should apply your resources. So there's twofold there of how, I hope people are using it and to help change, in a trying time like we're going through now.
Yeah, but at a basic level, unless I'm missing something here, Mike. I mean, I get all that, but it sounds like there needs to be another level of information, if you like, or a clearer level of information available in CRM that says, these folk now work remotely, and they're unlikely to actually appear in an office again, and therefore you may not see them in office again, or you may not see them face to face for some time, and in some cases it may be for a very long time because home working is just increasing. Period, right? Mm-hmm. So therefore, and it comes back to the customer experience piece, and that is, well, how do customers want to interact, and therefore, how people are actually evaluated for the kind of experience and interaction they want. I guess is that going to be a refinement in the way that CRM operates and feeds information through in the future, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, good question, Stephen. I'm not so sure I have a great answer here.
Yeah, it's fine. This is new.
Yeah,
this is news.
But it's, I mean, obviously, I think, there is the two components of that. And one is, how I think customers in this environment too, that have made a significant investment in your company are going to want to know how your company is doing, what you guys are doing, and all that stuff, right? So you can really use your CRM to make sure that piece is taken care of, and make sure that your sales or support teams are having that interface. And then the other piece is, new customers obviously are taking in information in a different way than they did when, Rick was out face to face with them. And, it's another good way to use your CRM, whether it be through this vehicle or some, kind of other, marketing collateral or white paper or other information that you really want to, work with them to help drive them, towards a decision.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Rick.
Yeah. I think this is more of an idea than it is an answer, but
that's good.
And I just went through an experience working for a small company right at the start of the whole COVID thing, and nobody's going to buy $1 million instrument from somebody over a Zoom call, or over a phone call. And, there's no add to truck on the website for a $1 million mass spectrometer. But one thing you could use the CRM for is, if you think about the life cycle of a sale, you've got the prospecting stages and the whole lead generating thing. And then you've got, introductory meetings that you might do with a PowerPoint presentation or something. And then you've got some more refined information that may get technical, it may get economic. Eventually you get the order, and then you get a plan for however the service or product is installed, and then you get the existing customers, and then the whole loop starts all over again. You could use the segmentation of the CRM to design virtual, engaging, compelling, online tools, whether they're videos or little movies, little vignettes, to do everything from prospecting to training. Right. And companies that don't figure out how to do that are really going to struggle in this time, because all the old-fashioned ways, I think, have gone away.
That's perfect, Rick. We've actually recently implemented that. So our field application specialists have done a number of small videos, how-to videos, how to label antibodies, how to use this part or another of the instrument, some of which is on YouTube, some of which is on a secure part of our website. What we've also done is video demos. So the FAS would be in the lab showing how the instrument is working, with the customer sort of on the other end of the video, watching and asking questions. So while it's not the perfect way to evaluate an expensive piece of equipment, it still keeps the process moving. And to me, there were two things that we changed in our approach over these COVID times. One was much more engagement by the technical parts of our organization. And the other is around content, really just dialing up the content that's highly valuable. So content with data, content related to tech tips, content related to pain points, and keeping the marketplace engaged, because people are still craving knowledge and education, whether they're sitting at home working or whether they're in a lab working.
Yeah, thanks for that, Jasmine. Okay, so I'd like to now move as we get towards the end of our time here, just to take questions from the audience, and you can unmute and throw a question. Do say who you are, though. They prefer writing the questions in.
We don't bite people. We're just like you.
So I've got so we have we've got one here then that's come in that we'll take the written one. So first one here is how will the CRM users need to be trained to be effective? Do you advocate for experts in the field to maximize the benefits, or is that overkill?
I'll go first.
Yep.
I've seen successfully implemented some pre-training of what we call super users. So in a region or an area, they become a go-to resource, a peer usually, that may not be an expert, but helps people get through that first part of adoption.
Yeah, I mean, just to add to what Rick said, I mean, I think that's absolutely right. And there's normally some kind of, cascading of training like that from, whoever you purchase the CRM from. Then there's a series of people who are more of those super users, and then it gets down to the remainder of the organization, sales, support, marketing.
Yeah. Okay. And another question I've got to come here is, and we already touched on the GPDR and CCPA. Are you looking at? Are you seeing that these regulations are putting constraints on how you keep data, acquire and keep? I assume that means, in fact, and get consent, and how you're managing those issues. Jasmine?
Yeah, I'll start it off. It's about building processes and learning as you go, and as the regulatory agencies are evolving as well. Yeah, we are paying a lot of attention on who is opting out, trying to understand why they've opted out. In some cases, it was a mistake. And so we do keep those pieces of data segregated for obvious reasons.
Yeah. Okay. So thanks for that. And I think the other thing is, when we're talking about regulations, and Mike, this one I guess particularly pertinent to you as you're in the diagnostics field. Are you having to comply with more regulations around data use because of FDA requirements or any other requirements out in the field?
Yeah, we don't have a commercial product on the market yet, so we're pre that stage. But particularly when you're working in diagnostics or a field where you're taking in patient information, I mean, HIPAA laws in the U.S. and wherever the other laws are globally are incredibly important and are not to be trivialized or not dealt with. So I can't really answer the question about additional regulations, but clearly whatever business you're in, follow them and work within them, right?
Right. So interesting question I've got here, and that is, what do you see the future of CRM looking like? What's it going to move towards? Is there going to be more AI? And what companies have to do with CRM to become more competitive? And I'll just add my own little spin to that question around AI in particular. We started talking about experience, personalization, making sure your message is appropriate. Now, AI may indeed be able to serve that, but as we all know, there's plenty of customer experiences out there that we have off the back of CRM systems that are not in the life sciences field that we don't exactly appreciate or feel that is personalized or a great experience. So I just wonder where you see, that ideal world moving towards, if you like, with CRM. So yeah, Rick, do you have a view on that?
Yeah, I do. I think AI is going to weigh in more heavily as time goes on, and I think automated analytics, that depending upon which function you're in any organization, where you get reporting done and pushed to you rather than having to sit there and extract a gigantic spreadsheet and then format it yourself and then try to figure out the trends and so stuff like trending information, markets that are growing, progress around maybe markets and products you've targeted to grow and do different things. So I think it's, I had some bad experiences with metric programs that, 90% of which were useless information. So I think designing effective metrics for the different functions. So whether you're a support manager, service manager, sales or marketing manager, you get some relevant things that are actionable in the business.
So I think you're saying then that CRM is going to be smarter and more competent in actually creating a more of a business drive function, as it were, as opposed to being a repository. It can really spit information out, if you like, to people and inform decisions and drive decisions.
Correct.
Yeah, that's interesting. Jasmine, do you see that kind of thing happening also in helping you in the context of marketing?
Most definitely. The CRM has already gone beyond just a database, just sort of this static tool. Right. I agree with Rick. I think that AI is here and it's going to continue to expand into the CRM. But like anything, it depends on how you use it. I mean, AI can unfortunately migrate into that experience of creepy. and none of us want that.
Right. But so I think also what you're saying then is, Jasmine, that the past perspective, if you like, of marketing's role as being, let's use CRM to lead generate and so on, or just lead generate and throw stuff into the CRM funnel aspect of it, is going to get way more sophisticated in the future.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So we have a lot more questions coming in, which is great, and I guess that means we've had a stimulating discussion, and people have been able to find this of value. Unfortunately, we can't take all the questions, so I apologise to the audience for not being able to answer all your questions today. A lot of questions about compliance, by the way, a lot about regulation, compliance, internal interfaces, and so on and so forth. So what I would say to the audience is that if you've enjoyed this, then we'd be very happy to set up another webinar in the future, as near future as possible, where we can actually answer the kind of questions that you want answered, and we will assemble a panel to answer that. That's what we're here for. So we'd be very happy to do that. But in the meantime, what I would like to end by saying is, first of all, this has all been recorded, and you will have a link sent to you after this, so you can reactivate or revisit the recording, or indeed share it with any of your colleagues. Please do. And any feedback you want to give to us, we greatly welcome it. It is a members organisation and a not-for-profit, so we're here to serve you and help you, and we'll do that as best we can. So I would like to close by saying a huge thanks for the generous time given, not just today but in previous days and leading up to this event, from Jasmine, Rick, and Mike. You've been absolute stars, and I have a thank you also from the audience too. So isn't that nice? So the audience have also said thank you, not just me. You have a vote from the floor as well. So I thank you once again for your great time, and it's been extremely interesting. I've loved it. You've been a lot of fun and extremely stimulating. So wish you all a great day from here on, and hopefully you'll see you all soon, but stay tuned for the next event, and that's on December 17th, rather, December 17th. So I'll say goodbye for now, and thanks for joining.
Thanks, bye.
Goodbye.
Take care, everyone.
Bye, Michael. Bye,
Bye.
Steve.